David, obviously, as you said, you're tremendous in the film, but I agree. And what I think is also tremendous in this movie is that it does feel like a passion project for everybody. It feels like it's the kind of movie that everybody was very heavily passionate about.
That's exactly right. And it's one of the rare instances where what it felt like to shoot the film is what you see on screen. You know, that passion, that desire to serve the story, serve the people who engaged in this incredibly brave campaign. The fact that love was ultimately the key and the weapon used to overcome hate. That was something we lived every day that we were shooting this film, and I'm just so glad that audiences are feeling that when they watch the film.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was thinking as well is that you must have had so much information about him as a public speaker and a public figure because there's a lot of footage available. But as a personal persona, must have been a little bit more challenging, right? So was it two sides?
That's exactly right. I mean, we all also have a notion of who he was in terms of the public speaker. There's so much footage of exactly that. My job was to go and find the private person and to join the dots between the two and to make sure they don't feel like two different people. And of course, he didn't go around his house, you know, talking in a booming vibrato voice, declaring that we shall overcome everywhere he went. And in many ways, that's the more interesting aspect of the film to me, because just to further accentuate his reputation and the things that we've already seen would not be compelling or indeed revelatory. I think that to be able to see ourselves in Dr. King because we see that he is indeed a human being is what's really powerful.
Yeah, is it cliche to think that, you know, you're all the more passionate about him now that you've explored his life more?
Not cliched at all. It's absolutely true. I think the fact of the matter is we all are guilty of reducing people like him who have done these incredible things down to sound bites, images, notions of what they did as opposed to who they actually were. And I think, you know, the wonderful opportunity this film presents is for people who young people to discover him and for older people to rediscover him in a sense by getting to see a three-dimensional version of him and to see just that, you know, he wasn't just a talker, he was a doer. I mean, this really ultimately cost him his life, and there are few people I know who would do what he did the way he did it.
Is there a lot of people that can still give you personal, stories about him, you know, people who are still alive that you've spoken with?
I was absolutely reliant on that fact. I mean, thankfully, there are several people who knew him intimately, who are still alive, and still have very vibrant memories of him, who were able to tell me about things that you can't find in a book, you can't find in a documentary, you can't even see in footage. You know, they have very personal memories of him that are the kind of things we try to depict in the film. And so, Andrew Young in particular, who is featured in the film, was invaluable to me from that point of view.
British actors never get credit for doing an accent to the T because they do it so well all the time. But what would you remember? I'm sure the accent was not the biggest challenge. What was for you, obviously, loving the person and the character so much, what became a challenge for you?
The biggest challenge was to carry the weight of playing him day in, day out. And the reason I say that is that emotionally, to place yourself in a headspace whereby you're having to entertain the notion of what it must have felt like to have not just your life threatened every day, but your children's lives, your wife's life. You know, I have 4 kids like he did and a wife I love dearly. That in and of itself is kind of an extraordinary thing to have to think about, let alone, the sheer weight of the legacy of slavery and the very real nature of prejudice, people being killed for the color of their skin, being marginalized. Racism, you know, is still with us now, but, you know, things have improved compared to what they were and how segregated life was in America. And to be the face of speaking out about that was a very big burden. And, you know, I'm not Dr. King. I'm an actor playing him, but I did feel some of what it must have felt like, and I can tell you I would not be able to do what he did.
Before she wraps me up, I just wanted to ask you about the Oscars. Obviously, you've heard countless times how robbed you've been from a nomination, but the film is, so how much of a pleasure was that?
It's great, you know, and of course, a film doesn't act itself, it doesn't direct itself. So the fact that we've been nominated for Best Picture is, of course, an acknowledgement of our work, everyone's work on the film, and we're very, very proud of that fact. The truth of the matter is it's the best reviewed film of the year, officially.
You're tremendous in it.
And I'm tremendous in it, officially. You know, it's making a lot of money, and, you know, people are loving it, and that's the reason you make movies.